Hi there, my name is Christine. I'm a demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and you may have seen my recent video using the baby wipes technique, but I wanted to make another one using the sea turtle stamp set because it looks really awesome. So I'll show you one of the cards that I've made. It's this one here with our sea turtles. So we're going to make something similar in this video. So the first thing, if you haven't seen the baby wipe technique, you want a plastic container so that it'll contain the baby wipe and the ink and not bleed anywhere because it is kind of messy. I'm going to go in with my darkest color, so I'm using Night of Navy. And I am covering a large enough surface because the stamp that I'm using is the big turtle. So you'll see I want to make sure it's fairly saturated. So you don't need a lot. I'm just putting a few drops of each color. So far we've got Night of Navy, we've got Parakeet Party, is that really bright green. Oop. Adding some Coastal Cabana. So you can see once you drop your colors, they just bleed into one another. And the last one I'll use is Tahitian Tide. I find this looks a bit like a really random tie-dye at this point. All right, oop. Oh. I've got a little bit that's bled here. There we go. So don't be afraid, you are going to get dirty. I'm just telling you right now, you are going to get ink on your hands. It comes off. All right, so I want to saturate this just a little bit more. I'm going to move my cardstock out of the way so that it doesn't get wet, as well as my scrap. This is my Stampin' Spritz, a spritzer bottle, and I'm just going to add a wee bit of water. I don't want to add too much because I don't want to saturate the colors, but I want to make sure that this is wet enough that my stamp will pick it up. Just making sure I've got a dry surface. All right, so let's see if this works. It should. It did last time I did it. I actually did a test run for this video, which you'll know by watching my videos that I don't always do that. So before I do this stage, I'm going to show you the sea turtles. Let me pull the stamp set in. So this is the stamp set. So these are reversible stamps, which in my mind makes them super cool. So I want to do my outline of my turtle first. So I'm actually putting the detailed side on my block. I'm not using this right away. And I'm going to grab some Parakeet Party for my background of my turtle. So we'll get him nice and evenly stamped up. This ink pad is quite new, so it's very wet. Okay, and I'm going to stamp off. Oh, got a weird sort of thing happening there. All right, so I'm actually going to stamp off twice because I like this really pale. No, that's not, yeah, no, sorry, that was the first generation, second generation. So this is where I want to go on my card, except I want to try to avoid weirdness. Not quite sure what happened there. All right, so it looks pretty even. So stamp off, and then I'm pulling in my sheet. So this is just plain basic white cardstock. And I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on here because I don't have anything underneath. Sometimes when I'm working with the photopolymer stamps, I'll use a mouse pad underneath or some kind of foam. I'm pulling that out now because I do find it much easier. It just gives a little bit of, it allows you to get a clear image. So that is our turtle. Now, I'm going to put the Parakeet Party away for now. I'm going to pull, just grabbing a baby wipe here to clean off the back of my stamp. right? So this is the smooth side. And peeling that off and flipping it over. So now I've got the detailed side upright. So that is the side I want to use to pick up this gorgeous pattern that I've created. Trying to go where it's most saturated. Oh, and I noticed I've got I had the edge of my, I'm using a stamp case, and I had the edge of my block on the stamp case, so got rid of that. Now, you can see it's quite watercolory looking. So I'm going to line it up on top of my outline. And press that in. And there we've got our baby wipes stamped image. So looking at this, I think I would like to have a bit more dark because there's not a lot of distinction with the parakeet. So noted, easily fixed. I am going to pull in a little bit more. I'm actually going to, excuse my reach, I'm going to pull in some Starry Sky to darken this up a bit. So you can't use this indefinitely. It's only good for a few kind of stamps because, I mean, it is just a baby wipe. So put that over here. Pull in my parakeet again. I'm going to clean off the stamp. So this is the detailed side. Flip that over and it's a very wet ink pad. I haven't given it quite enough attention, I don't think. All right, so that's stamped once. We'll do it again. What I like about this technique is no two images will be identical, which is really fun in my view. So there's our outline of our turtle. Clean that off. Flip it over. Now we've got our detailed side up. Just gonna put this away. I'll pull in my baby wipe with some more saturated color than before. And let's see what we get this time. I'm really pressing into it to pick up as much ink as I can. I think this is going to be a lot brighter. Ooh, let's do it this way. All right. One, two, three, and the big reveal. There we go. So it's a lot darker. Isn't that pretty? Love this. Okay, so I won't make you watch me cut it out, but that's what we're gonna do. But I've already done one, so like I said, I won't make you watch me do that. But this is a really easy shape to cut out, which is fun. And if your, detailed side doesn't quite line up with your outline, not a big deal. It really doesn't show once you've cut it, or even if you're doing it straight on, it's all good. So I'm going to set this aside, and through the magic of video, I'm going to use this turtle, which I did beforehand. So slightly different color combination on this one. I think I had used Pear Pizzazz, Night of Navy, Pacific Point, and Coastal Cabana. So slightly different color arrangement, a little more muted. Okay, so you've seen how that works. So now let's do a background for this guy. So to do that, I'm going to use my blending brushes. And I'm going to start off with my Sahara Sand. which is a retiring color. You don't need to start with the Sahara. The crumb cake looks really good too. I just like the depth of having the two colors. So you're just dipping my brush into the stamp pad to pick it up. And it's sand, so it doesn't have to be like perfect, in my view. So that's the Sahara sand base, and I'm just gonna add a little bit more tonality with the crumb cake. So I'm using the same brush because the colors are so close to each other that it really doesn't matter. I hope I'm not moving my desk too much, otherwise this will be a little nauseating, I'm sure. I apologize for that if I am. So I'm just trying to smooth it as much as I can. And I'm pushing it a little bit up. And as you may have guessed, there's going to be water on the other side of the sand. So for my water, I'm using, my base color is Pool Party. And I'm going to switch to this brush, which I've been using for my blues. And I'm just going to attack that from this side. The stamp pad is getting to the point of needing some ink. I think I've been dabbing a little too much, but that's okay. So I'm kind of going a little bit over top of the sand, as water does on the beach. Oh, I missed the beach. We had the most beautiful weather this past weekend. It wasn't quite beach worthy, but it was close. And now we're back to regularly scheduled spring. Rain, but it's all right. It was a nice little prelude. So I'm just going in with my Bermuda Bay, which is retiring. That one makes me sad. I'm gonna miss Bermuda Bay. I have to adapt with other colors. All right, so there we go. So that's our water meeting our sand. And there's a super cool stamp with our turtle, which I'm going to pull out. So we're going to do a little bit of heat embossing, and I will apologize for the sound of that. It is a bit loud, but it is fairly quick. And you can skip ahead through the noise. I won't be offended. I would. All right, so we've got our sand. No, sorry, this is water. It's like waves. So again, this is a double-sided stamp. So you can really do some fun patterns with it. But because I want to kind of mimic that spray, so my desk is a colossal mess. I've been working on this project for a little while. Just keeps getting messier and messier. So this is Versamark ink. It's kind of funny to call it ink because it's clear. And it is used for a few different things. I mainly use it for heat embossing. It's thicker than regular ink. It is not a water-based ink. I have no idea what it actually is made of. But it's going to keep, it stays a little wet so that you can pick up your embossing powder. So, it's quite sticky. I use a baby wipe to clean this. I don't use my chamois because it's not just water-based, so I don't want it to stay on the chamois. So good old baby wipe. All right, so you can't see it right now, but you're going to be able to see it soon. If you haven't seen the embossing powders, they come in these little jars. I like to work over top of a container to catch the powder because it's very fine and it goes everywhere and it can be a little messy. So if you are using this, you can kind of see the paper ends up being a little bit shiny where the Versamark ink is, which kind of helps you figure out where to put the powder. And just tapping off the excess. Now I forgot to de-static this paper before I did this, so you can't see it, but there is some powder where I don't want it, and then what happens is it'll melt onto the paper and then you're kind of stuck with it. Now I'm looking for, there we go. I've got a very fine detail brush here that I keep handy, just so that if I forget to de-static my paper like I just did, I can brush away the excess, and because this brush is so tiny, I can stay away from where I do want my powder. Now the fun thing with this, because it's foamy, sea foam kind of stuff, if it does, you know, spill over a little bit, it's really not the end of the world. But if you're trying to do a really precise stamp, it doesn't look quite as nice as you intended. So always a good idea to have a brush handy so you can clean up your edges. All right, now comes the loud part. I do apologize for the noise. I wish I could mute it, but I have no idea how to do that. So it is fairly quick though. You can just skip ahead 10 seconds and we'll be done. Won't take too long. So this is my heat tool, and I'm just gonna turn it on, positioned onto the paper. So did you see the magic happen there when the powder melted and the white came up? I love that. Like, it does not get old. I've been doing this for 4 years and I'm just like, oh, it's so pretty. I get very excited. So this is what I'll use for our background. And then we've got our lovely turtle. One thing I just kind of discovered is if you use your bone folder or pencil, you can kind of curl your turtle. Curling the shell a bit just to add some dimension to it, and it's really kind of fun. So you can kind of just go over it until you have the shape you want. Then I'm going to curl his little flippers out a bit. Arms, flippers, I don't know. Turtle limbs. And his little feet. And then he's kind of 3D, which is so fun, right? So there he is. Now, so we've got our turtle, we've got our background. I have done a couple of extra shapes that we may or may not use. I'm just pulling them in for fun. So I've got some sand dollars that I stamped. This one's done in Sahara sand. This one's done in crumb cake. And I've got my little starfish that I did in Calypso coral. The stamp set has a large starfish as well, and it has a baby turtle and fishes. And some, I guess this would be seaweed. Could be used as waves as well. So it's a really cute little stamp set. All right, so what we need now is a sentiment. We need a card base. We need to make a card. So let's grab our sentiment. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do it on... No, I'm too indecisive. We're going to do our background first. Sorry, I was organized. I had kind of taken pieces out that I wanted to use and use them on another card. So now I have to start over. So I'm just going to get my cutting board out. And this is our background layer. So I'm going to make it 4 inches by 5 1/4. And we'll need a card base as well, so I'll grab that. I'm going to use thick white that stands up really nicely. And that is over here. I just throw my scraps right into the paper pile. All right, so I'm cutting that at 5 1/2. So cutting my sheet in half, and then I'm turning it at the 4 1/4 mark. I'm putting away the blade, and I'm using my scoring blade, I guess. So now I've got a score line halfway down. And that is what we need for the base of our card. So I'm just going to fold that. I find it easier to work on the card when it's already folded. Some people prefer to finish the card and then fold it. It's all up to your preference. There's no wrong way. So we've got our card base. I'm going to add our crumb cake layer. I'm just using liquid glue for that. Good old Tombow. I want to get close to the edge, but I don't want it to spill out when I put it on the card. So I'm you know, not being too generous with it. So I'm centering that. There we go. Now, before I put this layer down, I do need to choose my sentiment, and I want to figure out if I'm going to add ribbon or not, and a few other things. So we'll just set that there for now, and let's do our sentiment. I just got the Happy Labels stamp set, which is bundled with the Happy Labels punch, which is has 2 different sizes, and it's a pick a size punch. Sorry, 2 different styles, and you can size them to what you want. So it's currently sold as a bundle, but only until the end of the month. After that, it'll still be available, but not at that 10% off price. So just wanted to let you know that. So I'm going to use, I'm so happy you were born, because I think it's really cute. Now, put it on white so it's going to stand out, and we'll use Bermuda Bay. Now, I've never used this stamp, so I am going to test it out, as I recommend you always do, just to see how it's picking up the ink. Sometimes there's a film on the stamps and you'll get like splotches. It's just uneven. If that is the case, what I do is I wash my stamp with a baby wipe or my Simply Chamois, and I just really go over it. Sometimes there's a bit of a film left with the stamp production process, and when you clean it off, that will come off. If it's being really stubborn, you can use a white eraser, and that will get rid of it for you. And if that doesn't work, contact me. If I'm not your demonstrator, contact your demonstrator, and we will get in touch with Stampin'Up, and they'll fix it. All right, so that is our sentiment. Now, with these labels, what you want to do is you want to leave a little gap so that when you cut it, you know, you can do both sides. So if you haven't used one of our punches, they come locked. You slide this up and then it'll squeeze open. I'm going to use this sort of scallopy edge. And So they're sized to like a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and a 1 inch. You can totally use sizes in between, but you cannot go larger than 1 inch or it'll look a little, it'll be hard to line it up. So just trying to make it so that it's even. And when you've got it where you want it, then you just squeeze, punch. And there's our little scalloped edge, which is so cute. So now I'm just going to cut this a bit so that it's about even. And let's do the other side. You choose the same side. Otherwise, you could end up with 2 different styles, which should be kind of different. All right. So there's our sentiment. I like that. It's cute. Okay. So that'll go here. We'll have our turtle kind of going towards the water. So I am going to use my favorite ribbon, which is retiring. Sometimes when you heat emboss, your paper will curl a little bit. Totally not a big deal. I'm just going to uncurl it a little bit just to make it a little easier to work with. All right. So this is the Pool Party sheer ribbon, and I'm a huge fan of it. It's just got the right amount of shimmer. It's not fussy. It's going away. It's okay. I'll be fine. I will save this spool and use it for special cards. So I'm just going to make a knot because I don't want to get all fussy. Bows for this one. And you know, I don't know if you know this, but knots can be just as complicated as bows to get right, especially when you're doing a video. Should be easy, but sometimes it just isn't. Oh my goodness, I need a 3rd limb. I know it would look weird, but it'd be so handy. All right, got it. So I'm going to fuss with the ends of that later. For the time being, we'll just do this. Put that away. You notice that I kept it attached until I had my knot made so that I'm not wasting any or wasting very little. So the nice thing about this sheer ribbon is it's super thin, so I can glue this piece directly onto the card base and it's not going to buckle or anything because it's so thin. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put a little bit of glue actually right behind it, and it's quite a an open weave, so it's going to, the glue will bleed through a bit and it'll help steady it down. All right, so centering this piece, which you totally don't have to. You can put them on an angle, whatever you prefer. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a little bit of glue on the pieces that are touching down. And I'm not going to put glue in the center. Now, if you mail this, it will not hold its shape. But if you're giving it to somebody in person, it'll hold its bounce unless you flatten it. I'm going to try not to flatten it before I give it to somebody. All right. Just putting a little bit of pressure where I put the glue, but I'm not squeezing down the center, and our little turtle's head is still positioned upright, I'll turn the card and show you the dimension. Once I've got this stuck down, I think we're good. So I don't know if you can see with the angle, but there's some lift there that has stayed. I'm going to put the sentiment on dimensionals, and please excuse my reach. I always forget to take those out and put them near me. So there we go. Oops. Okay, so because this ribbon is sheer, the dimensionals will poke down nicely, or they should. Just trying to line it up so it's fairly straight. There we go. And unfortunately, I was wrong. The dimensionals are not holding down. So what I'm going to do is show you a little trick. What I should have done is put some double-sided tape underneath my ribbon, but I didn't think that I needed it. So instead, I'm just going to use some glue dots. I should only need a couple. And I'm going to try to position them behind my dimensionals. So now we've got the glue dot between the ribbon and the dimensional, and that's gonna hold. That's going nowhere. So just a little hack for you, should this happen to you. So I'm using my take your pick tool to position it, and then just pressing nice and hard. And that is going absolutely nowhere, which is great. Okay. I'm going to put a sand dollar down, but before I put my sand dollar down, one thing I love to do is use so I've just got to decide which one I'm going to use. I think I'll go with the Sahara Sand one because there's a little more color variation. So this is my Wink of Stella pen, and I will hold this up to the lens. I don't know if it'll really show through, but what it does is it adds shimmer to everything it touches. I love this stuff. Just a little bit of shimmer. It can also, it'll move your ink around as well if you're using it on regular ink. So that's kind of fun too, to kind of help you blend and move your color around a bit. So there's some shimmer. Now, if I hold this up, I don't know if you can really see the shimmer on it, but it's subtle, but it's really pretty. So I'm just going to put that down with regular glue. And we're going to put it under here. And am I going to use my starfish? Yeah, totally. I like the pop of color that the Calypso Coral brings. So my dimensional is right there, which is why I'm having a bit of problems placing it. There we go. There. So I'm just going to trim those tails. Whoop. Preferably not my fingers. Wouldn't be the first time I did it. And that is the card I've made on this video. So I've got, this is the first one I made. So my turtle's a lot flatter, still really pretty. I used what did I use? The new flat opals? Nope, that's not them. My desk is such a mess, I'm sorry. The flat adhesive backed pearls. So they're quite lovely. There's also the opals. Actually, I need to use at least one. These ones are the opals. They are retiring at the end of the month. I don't know if there's any left or if they're already gone. They are so pretty. Just gonna add that here because I love shimmer. I promise I'm done this card for now. So like I said, you truly inspire me. So that's the first one I made. And then I made another one with baby turtles that are heading off to sea. And the sentiment I use is I believe in you. Both of these came from the, it's a retiring stamp set, the Beautiful Friendship, which is a really lovely stamp set. So again, I used the flat pearls on this one and some starfish. I also used the deckled rectangles to cut these shapes out, just to kind of pop it up for some visual interest. So I hope you like these. I hope they've inspired you to try something new. The baby wipe technique is a ton of fun. It's a little bit messy, but I actually did quite well tonight. Not too messy. But yeah, if you have any questions, comments, please get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel to see my next videos. Thanks for watching.